Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today, we're going to try to answer a question that's pretty intriguing. Can the Quran save your life? And I don't mean just in this life, but in the hereafter, too.
Right.
Now, we're going to be going into this assuming you might not know much about the Quran.
Yeah.
So think of this as your crash course, right? We're going to uncover what this book is all about, explore some of the key ideas, and see how it might offer guidance for living a meaningful life, both now and in the future, at least according to Islamic belief.
It's fascinating because the Quran often gets misunderstood or even misrepresented.
Oh, yeah.
So this deep dive is a chance to, kind of get a clearer picture by going straight to the source.
Absolutely, yeah. No better way than to go straight to the source, right?
hmm
So let's get started with the basics. What exactly is the Quran?
So the Quran is the central religious text of Islam.
Okay.
Muslims believe it's the word of God, as revealed to the Prophet Muhammad over about 23 years.
Okay.
But it's not just some ancient text gathering dust, right?
Mm.
It's a living guide that Muslims turn to for wisdom on everything, from prayer and spirituality to how to live an ethical life, how to build a just society, and even handle everyday challenges.
Oh, wow. So it's like a combination spiritual guidebook, a practical manual for life, all wrapped up in one.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay. All right.
And for this deep dive, what we're going to be doing is focusing on a few key themes that really get to the heart of how the Quran aims to help people lead a good life and earn a place in paradise, according to Islamic belief.
Okay.
And those themes are believing in God, living a life based on righteous actions, and understanding what happens after we die in the hereafter.
Okay, I'm already intrigued.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's start with the belief in God. What does the Quran say about that?
So the Quran is crystal clear that there's only one God called Allah,
Okay.
and he is the all-powerful creator and sustainer of everything.
Okay.
It emphasizes his power, mercy, and knowledge throughout. For example, there's a passage in the Quran where it states, "He created the heavens and the earth in truth. Exalted is he above what they associate with him."
Okay.
And in another, say, "My Lord knows whatever is said in the heavens and earth, and he is the hearing, the knowing."
Wow. So there's this real sense that God is aware of everything we do, everything we say, even our thoughts.
Exactly.
Huh.
And that leads us to the second key theme, righteous actions.
All right.
The Quran consistently reminds us that our actions have consequences both in this life and the next.
So it's not enough to just say you believe in God. You have to actually live your life in a way that reflects that belief.
Right. The Quran emphasizes that faith without action is incomplete.
Okay.
It even lays out specific ways to live righteously, like in one passage where it states, "And know that whatever thing you gain, a fifth of it belongs to Allah and to the messenger and to the near relatives and the orphans and the needy and the traveler."
Interesting. So it sounds like social responsibility is a big part of living a good life, according to the Quran. It's not just about personal piety, but how you treat others, especially those who are less fortunate.
Absolutely. And this all ties into the idea of accountability in the hereafter, which is that third key theme we'll be looking at.
Okay.
Basically, the Quran says there's a day of judgment where everyone will be held accountable for their actions and beliefs.
This day of judgment idea, man, that's pretty intense. I mean, it really makes you think about the choices you make in this life, doesn't it?
It definitely encourages reflection, but it's not meant to be scary.
Right.
The Quran presents this idea as a way to motivate people to live a good life, knowing that ultimately there's going to be a reckoning. It's like a cosmic system of checks and balances.
Right. Right. Okay, so let's talk about the consequences on this day of judgment. What does the Quran say happens to those who have lived a righteous life versus those who haven't?
Well, the Quran describes two very different outcomes: paradise for those who believe and lived righteously, and hell for those who didn't. And it gets really vivid in describing both.
Yeah, paradise sounds pretty amazing from what I've heard. What kind of details does the Quran actually give about it?
Oh, it's depicted as a place of ultimate bliss and fulfillment. Like imagine lush gardens with rivers flowing beneath,
Oh, wow.
beautiful dwellings, delicious food and drink in abundance.
Okay.
The Quran emphasizes that in paradise, there's no pain, no sorrow, and no fear.
Wow.
Just eternal peace and contentment.
Okay.
It even says, they will have whatever they wish they're in.
Wow, that sounds idyllic. It really paints a picture of a reward that's beyond, our wildest dreams, right?
Mhm.
But what about hell? How is that described?
The Quran's descriptions of hell are meant to be, stark warnings, depictions of suffering and torment meant to deter people from wrongdoing. It talks about, a blazing fire and intense punishments for those who disbelieved and committed sins.
So, It's a pretty powerful contrast. Paradise representing the ultimate reward and hell representing ultimate punishment. It seems like the Quran is really trying to emphasize the importance of choosing the righteous path, right?
Exactly. It's about understanding that our actions have consequences that extend beyond our earthly lives. But, the Quran isn't just about the afterlife. It also offers tons of practical guidance for navigating the challenges of this life, too.
See, that's what I was thinking. Because it's all well and good to have this big picture view, but how does the Quran actually help people, you know, deal with the ups and downs of everyday life?
Well, it emphasizes things like patience, perseverance, and turning to God for support during difficult times. For example, there's a verse that says, "And be patient, for indeed Allah is with the patient."
That's a really comforting thought. Like no matter what you're going through, you're not alone because God is there with you.
Right. And in another passage, it encourages, strength and resilience, saying, "And when you meet a company of the enemy, be firm and remember Allah much that you may succeed." So it's about facing challenges head on with courage and faith.
So it's not just about, passively accepting whatever life throws at you, but about actively working through challenges with God's help. I can see how that could be, empowering for people.
Absolutely. And there are even verses that address specific life situations and offer guidance on how to act. For example, there's a lot of discussion about caring for orphans and the vulnerable, stating, "And give to the orphans their properties, and do not substitute the defective of your own for the good of theirs, and do not consume their properties into your own. Indeed, that is ever a great sin."
That's really interesting how the Quran ties this act of caring for others into, the bigger picture of avoiding sin. It shows how interconnected everything is, our actions towards others, our relationship with God, even our fate in the afterlife.
That's a great observation. The Quran emphasizes that our actions in this life have ripple effects. It's all part of a larger tapestry.
So, beyond caring for the vulnerable, what other kinds of practical guidance does the Quran offer?
Well, it covers a vast range of topics, from family matters and business dealings to, personal conduct and spiritual growth. It even talks about the importance of seeking knowledge and using your intellect. For instance, there's a passage where it seems to advise focusing on spiritual growth and knowledge rather than, being distracted by worldly possessions or status.
That's a message that feels, really relevant today. I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in the material world and forget about what truly matters.
Right. And that focus on the eternal over the temporary is a theme that runs throughout the Quran's guidance.
So it sounds like the Quran really encourages this mindful and balanced approach to life, taking care of your spiritual needs while also navigating the practical realities of the world around you.
Exactly. It's about striving for a life of meaning and purpose, grounded in faith and good deeds, with the ultimate goal of pleasing God and earning a place in paradise. But while the descriptions of paradise are incredibly enticing, there's a passage in the Quran that adds another layer to this whole idea. It's one that really got me thinking.
You mentioned a passage that really got you thinking. I'm all ears. What is it?
Well, we've been talking about how the Quran describes paradise as this incredible reward for believers, right?
All right.
But there's this one passage that says something like, "And we have certainly given you, O Muhammad, 7 of the repeated verses in the Great Quran." It's referring to the opening chapter of the Quran, which is recited in every prayer.
Okay, so what's so thought-provoking about that? It seems pretty straightforward.
Well, the interesting part is how it's interpreted.
Okay.
You see, some scholars believe it's emphasizing the importance of those 7 verses, kind of highlighting their significance within the whole Quran.
Yep.
But others see it as a call to action. It's a reminder that even the most profound and powerful words are meaningless unless we actually live by them.
Ah, okay, I see what you mean. It's like saying, here's this amazing guidebook, but it's up to you to actually use it and apply its teachings to your life.
Yeah,
It's not enough to just read it or hear about it. You have to embody it.
exactly. And I think that's a powerful message for anyone, regardless of their beliefs. It's a reminder that knowledge without action is incomplete. We can have all the best intentions and these grand ideas, but if we don't translate them into real world actions, they're not really worth much.
That's a great point. It's so easy to get caught up in the intellectual or theoretical side of things. But the real test is how we live our lives day to day.
Right. And the Quran offers this framework for living a righteous life, both for our own benefit in this world and for the potential rewards in the hereafter.
Hmm.
But ultimately, the power to change and grow lies within each individual.
It's empowering, right? Because it puts the responsibility in our own hands. We have the choice to make the most of the guidance that's available to us.
Exactly. And that's something I hope listeners will take away from this deep dive. The Quran offers this wealth of wisdom and guidance, but it's up to each of us to decide how we'll integrate those teachings into our lives.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. It's been really fascinating exploring the Quran and its potential impact on both this life and the afterlife. Hopefully, this deep dive has provided a new perspective for those who might have been unfamiliar with the text.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you. I always find something new to ponder in the Quran. And I encourage everyone to, continue exploring its depths on their own.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Mm.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving to live your best life.